The trial of Pilate. According to Book of John, after being arrested and after a preliminary trial by the Jewish leaders, Jesus was sent to Pilate, the Roman proconsul of Jerusalem, for an official and governmental court to be held and his execution sentence to be ratified by consul. During the trial, Pilate asks some questions from Christ, and Jesus gives some answers in his defense. One of Pilate's questions, and probably the most important one, was that whether Jesus claims to be king or not, and what he has done that the Jewish leaders have sent him to Pilate. Jesus says that he has come to testify to someone and does not claim to be king. The critical point, which has been ignored by Christian scholars, is that he claims that his mission is to testify to this person, and more importantly, the word he uses to refer to this person is not either Greek nor Hebrew. So that even the highest official rank of Jerusalem, Pilate, didn't know the meaning of the word. He didn't even know if it is a name of a person. The accounts of the other three Gospels, including Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are very different from the account of John. In these three Gospels, Jesus does not defend himself and never says his mission is the testimony of truth. This fact has raised the importance of the subject. Let's read John's account of the trial.
John, chapter 18, Old Translation, 33. Pilate then went back inside the palace, summoned Jesus, and asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" 34. "Is that your own idea?" Jesus asked. "Or did others talk to you about me?" 35. "Am I a Jew?" Pilate replied, "Your own people and chief priests handed you over to me. What is it you have done?" 36. Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jewish leaders. But now my kingdom is from another place." 37. "You are a king then," said Pilate. Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." 38. "What is truth?" retorted Pilate. With this, he went out again to the Jews gathered there and said, "I find no basis for a charge against him."
Assuming that this trial's report is valid, we have to admit that what Jesus said here is really amazing. It may be concluded from these verses that Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, has denied the claim to be king, and that is why Pilate acquitted him. Note that for Pilate, the important point was that whether Jesus claimed to be king or not. This was absolutely crucial for the Romans. They knew that Jews were expecting someone who would lead them and would take the rulership from the hands of the Romans. In other words, Romans were very alert about rebellion against their rule. That is why Pilate repeats his question twice, and Jesus denies the charge that he has claimed to be king. Pilate wants to know what Jesus has done that Jewish leaders has brought him before the court of law. If Christians had paid attention to the answer of Jesus, the world of Christianity would have taken a different form. Jesus Christ describes his mission to testify to Ahmad, which the author of the book of John and other transcribers considered it to be testimony of the truth. Another important point in this trial is the way Jesus Christ answers the questions. He denies the accusation that he has claimed to be king and says, I was born and came to this world to testify the truth, and anyone who is of the truth will hear my words. The sentence, and anyone who is of the truth will hear my words, means any faithful person who follows the truth will have faith in me and will follow what I say. This very sentence shows the importance of truth in the word of Christ. Is testimony of the truth a testify by itself? No, it is not. There must be something hidden beyond this word which completes its meaning, which is testimony to something or someone who is called aletheos by John, and other translators have translated it as truth. The key to mystery of the nature of this testimony is in the word, but not in Greek, in Hebrew. It is also worth noting that if testimony of truth means saying and attesting correctly and truly, then this question raises, why didn't Jesus mention the subject of testimony? Why didn't he say what he testifies correctly and truly? Imagine you are in a trial to testify about an event. First, you take an oath and say, I swear to say the truth. Here, nothing is said about the subject of testimony, but it has been just pointed out that I will testify truly. Now, in the case of testimony of Christ, if testimony of the truth means true testimony, then what is the subject of the testimony? If we make such an assumption, then the subject of the Christ's testimony was never mentioned during the trial. Therefore, Jesus did not mean to testify truly, but he meant to testify to someone whom the book of John has translated as aletheos, meaning the truth. By careful examination of this word, we may easily understand that Christ meant the coming of Ahmad, which is translated as testimony of truth in Greek version of Gospel of John. Reading the following conversations between Christ and Pilate suffices to prove this. Where Pilate asks, what is the truth? It indicates that he didn't know the meaning of the word, which is of course natural, since the word uttered by Christ was unknown to him. It should be stressed again that if the Christ's point was to testify truly, then Pilate should have asked, what is the testimony? Instead of asking, what is the truth? It is not reasonable to expect that highest official rank of a city doesn't understand the meaning of the word truth, unless it is uttered in an unfamiliar language. Additionally, why didn't the consul ask what it is that you testify truly? Because he reckoned correctly that Christ's point was not to testify truly, but to testify to. That's why his question is about the nature of this vague word. The strangest point is that Christ leaves the question of counsel unanswered, and Pilate shows no reaction. How may an accused ignore such an important question raised by the governor of a city without any reaction by the governor? Pilate put the Christ on the trial to learn more about his arguments and goals. This exchange of questions and answers between judge and defendant is a matter of life and death. The judge is seeking to hear the words of accused and to find out what he has done. If the Christ's response is that he has not done and will not do anything wrong except true testimony, then Roman counsel should have asked that, what or who is your true testimony about? But the governor asked what the truth is because he didn't understand the meaning of the word truth. Let's not forget that the defendant here is not an ordinary person. He's a man sent by God to guide people. Why did he leave such an important question unanswered? At the very time that he's about to defend himself against charges and convey his mission to governor, maybe the Christ answered the question, but the author of the book of John didn't report the answer, or the transcribers found it against their will and omitted the answer of Christ to the question of governor and translated the name of the person announced by Christ to hide the truth. In order to find the truth, we have no choice but to reconstruct the trial scene and find the missing pieces of this puzzle and complete the picture. The picture resulted from reconstruction of trial scene highlights the extraordinary importance of the person referred and testified by Christ. We know that Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, spoke in Hebrew and Aramaic, and he used to speak Greek only when he was addressing the Romans. During the trial, when Christ was being questioned by Pilate, he used a non-Greek word that was unknown to Pilate. That is why Pilate asks, "What is truth?" While if Christ had uttered the Greek word for truth, that is aletheos, there would not have been such a question in Pilate's mind, and he would ask, "What is the testimony of truth?" instead of asking, "What is truth? What testimony are you talking about?" But he asked, "What is truth?" And probably when he found out that such a testimony is not an offense, the very piece of the puzzle which is missed, he acquitted the Christ. The fact that the answer of Christ to the last question of Pilate is missing suggests many things. The answer was not agreeable for those who was charged to compile and preserve the book of John. Therefore, they deemed it fit to close the story of trial unfinished.
Masaf International Institute, uncovering the truth.